Hi there. So here we are. It's 2026 and you might well be thinking about taking the IELTS test. If you're going to take the IELTS test in 2026, then watch this video first. I've got some 5 tips that will get you started. Thanks for clicking on this video. My name's David Bourne. I am your IELTS coach from IELTS Breakthrough. IELTS Breakthrough helps you get a high score in IELTS so that you can study at an international university and progress in your career. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and let's get started with the tips now. The first thing you need to remember is to prepare for the computer-based test. The IELTS does come in different formats, but the computer-based test is by far the most popular. So what this means is that you need to be ready to use the computer interface effectively and efficiently when you take the IELTS test. There are 4 points to consider here. Firstly, make sure that you have good keyboard skills. Secondly, make sure that you know how to manipulate the test interface. This means knowing how to scroll, knowing how to highlight, and knowing how to navigate between all of the questions. Thirdly, in the listening, you might well have to make notes or answer questions under pressure. This means doing 2 things at once, listening to the audio and typing your notes or your answers. And this brings me to the last point. The good news is that you can practice and get experience of the computer-based test. All you have to do is go to IELTS.org and access the sample test materials for the computer-based IELTS test. And it's all there and it's completely free. So make sure that you do have a go at those sample tests before you take your real IELTS test. Tip number 2 is to stop chasing band 9. Absolutely, it is a good idea to set a target of the IELTS score that you intend to get. The thing is, your target needs to be realistic. If you target band 9, that's basically too high. You don't need to get a band 9. Most universities and visa application systems are looking at between 6.5 and 7.5. My advice is that your target should be either 6.5, 7 or 7.5. And of course, the midpoint is the easiest one. So basically, target getting a band 7. And if you're good at English, you can look at the higher 7.5 or even 8. Now, tip number 3 relates to what you need to do well in speaking and writing. Obviously, speaking and writing is 50% of your IELTS result, and they are the 2 sections of IELTS that need the most practice and also cause the most problems for test takers. I've got lots of videos on speaking and writing, and I'm not going to go into details here. Just check out those videos in the speaking playlist and the writing playlist on this channel. What I will say here is that with speaking, it's a good idea to see the speaking test as a conversation. That means that you need to try and answer and perform as naturally as possible. If you try and just use a load of memorized phrases and just study useful things that you can say, then your speech is not going to be like a conversation, and the examiner will notice that you're just delivering these memorized responses. That will limit your score. Now, with writing, again, there's plenty of tips and strategies that you need to know about writing. I would say the most important thing is to organize your writing. Organization comes in the form of paragraphs, so you need to use paragraphs in both tasks of the writing. The paragraphs need to be connected together clearly. And then inside one paragraph, the sentences also need to be connected clearly. Now, tip number 4 is all about AI. AI, of course, is a really valuable tool that you can use to help improve your IELTS score. The point here is to use AI as a coach, not as a cheat. Basically, you can ask AI to make a writing answer, make a speaking answer on all of the IELTS speaking questions, and then you can learn those answers and try to remember them in a test. That's using AI to cheat, and it will not help your score. However, if you do use AI to give you feedback on your writing and speaking performance, if you ask AI to create practice exercises for all 4 sections, the speaking, reading, writing, and listening, and if you use AI for vocabulary growth, then this is going to be a valuable asset. Again, check out the videos on using AI for IELTS preparation to learn more. And tip number 5 is to build an easy, consistent habit with your IELTS preparation. This would mean taking about 15 to 30 minutes every day. You should also track your progress. By tracking the progress, I mean tracking what exercises did you do? What section of the IELTS test have you been working on? And I will have a video on an IELTS progress tracker coming out very soon, so make sure that you subscribe and know when that video comes out. Another part of your consistent habit for preparing for IELTS is to make sure that you are aware of your weaknesses and then work on those. Of course, your weaknesses are areas where your score can drop. If you practice and strengthen your weaknesses, you can overcome these problems. And then lastly, as part of your IELTS preparation this year, make sure that you do 2 types of practice. The first type of practice is non-test practice. That's where you develop your reading, your listening, your vocabulary and your grammar, not with any kind of IELTS in mind. And then, of course, the other type of practice is to do test practice. Before you do the real test, make sure that you have done some practice tests for IELTS already. And as I mentioned, you can get free IELTS tests at IELTS.org. And there we have it. That's how you can get started in 2026 for successful IELTS results. I'll just review these points for you. Number 1, prepare for the computer-based test. Number 2, don't chase a Band 9 score. Number 3, speaking is a conversation and your writing needs to be organised. Number 4, use AI as a coach, not a cheat. And then number 5, build an easy, consistent habit. Let me know in the comments, how are you going to prepare for IELTS? And tell me what kind of videos would you like me to make for helping you to improve your IELTS results in 2026. And of course, remember, if you liked this video, make sure that you are subscribed and you have the notifications on, because there's so much free and highly valuable tutorials and advice that you can get from IELTS Breakthrough. I'll see you in the next video, and have a fantastic holiday if you're still on holiday.